In this lesson, we're going to unwrap our log burner model for texturing later on in the second part of the course. What we want to get from this is a UVW template, which looks something like this. When we zoom in, it is individual pieces flattened out as a net. You can stitch them together if you like. Often it isn't really going to make a difference. The only thing that I needed stitched together really was these four, which actually works out to be these 1, 2, 3, 4 faces around the front, because that's where you're actually going to see joins on the edges. The others on the inside and under here, it doesn't really matter because you're not going to be close enough to see where the stitches meet. And then eventually we'll paint over that using different brushes and different decal textures we downloaded, so we can have sort of burnt and messy areas where we want them and control them that way. But that's for another tutorial. So for now, we'll just go through unwrapping this using the similar method to the wooden beams from before, only this is obviously a little bit more complex. So we'll just go through and do it in real time and show you how I would go about it. So as usual, UV mapping clear, UV unwrap on top of this, edge selection, and we just got to go through and start picking our edges. So as mentioned before, look at everything as if it was a cylinder. So if we can imagine this little central piece here with the hole in the middle, you would have a top, a bottom, and then somewhere a stitch down the side. And that's how I try and look at everything, just to keep it as simple as possible. So we'll go around here and we'll select all the bottom and top edges, loop, and then we'll select one edge in the corner, and that can be our side. Now you'll see now when I've looped it, because of the way it's been modeled and it was inset, you've got these diagonal edges that come off, and there's one below too. At the end, when we selected all our edges, we just need to go into wireframe mode and double check where these are and just alt and drag and delete them. But because we're using the loop tool, every time we hit it, it'll reselect them. So for now, we'll leave them as they are. We'll just hit loop and then we'll come back to them and delete them before we finish. So I need to select this front hole where the door is and loop those. And we're going to select all of these outside edges. Now normally you would try and keep this as one piece with just one edge, but I know from when I first tested this out, it ended up being more hassle than it was worth. So I can just stitch them back together in the UV editor like we've done with our wooden beams. So I can just loop around the bottom edges, and that gives us a bottom net. Make sure everything's got stitches, or seams, sorry, not stitches. Keep looping. It does take a little time and it can be a little tedious. Once you get used to it, it's almost weirdly therapeutic, or can be. It can also drive you completely insane. So I'm sure you'll enjoy getting to grips with unwrapping. Just loop those, and we'll select around this top edge and this lip. Oh, wrong edge. Keep looping, and this lip, we're going to have to select these little edges too, just so it's got a cut-off point. Otherwise it'll just try and spread it out a little bit strangely if you don't do that. Let's not forget these, or hinges. I find one of the most tedious things is the viewport, because once you start selecting everything, obviously you can't press Z and zoom in on a particular point when you've got half of the edges selected of a model. So eventually I end up putting it into orthographic mode, which means you can zoom in a little closer depending on your scale of your scene. And I just find that a little bit easier to work in than perspective a lot of the time. So we can just go in and keep on selecting so we get all of our loops correct. And fingers crossed, we shouldn't be too far away soon. So we have our hinges. We have our inside piece, top, inners, front edge, bottom, this inside ceiling needs a loop. And that should be all we need, I think. We'll find out in a second when we hit unwrap. Oh no, there we go. Top edge at the back. So as mentioned before, we'll go into wireframe mode and just unselect these two diagonals because we don't need them to be selected. Could cause problems with our unwrap, just random seams. And then convert edge selection to seams. Polygon mode, open UV editor. We'll select all and we'll just press reset peel for now. And it looks like we've got a crazy piece of geometry. Super stretched out. So what we can do is come back into this and we'll get edge selection. We'll loop there. And we'll loop there on these corners and convert to seams. And we'll go back into our editor, control all, and then reset peel again. And hopefully that should have, right, okay. Looks like there's a few edges missing. Always good to encounter a few problems to work out while we're doing it. So we've missed these inside edges. Must have completely overlooked those. And we'll loop them. Luckily, you can keep on editing in the unwrap. You don't have to always start again. Sometimes you will, and it'll be very frustrating, but that's life. So I'll convert those to edges as well. Polygon mode, same again, just control all, reset peel. That looks a bit better. And we'll pack in there. I have no idea why this is coming out so long. All it is this edge. So what we can do, an easy way to do this sometimes, because I know I want to flatten it out into a net like this, where I can stitch it together myself, is that there's a great tool, it's mapping tool called Flatten Mapping. So I hit Flatten Mapping, press OK, and everything has just now been flattened out into separate pieces, just how I wanted it. And that enables me to render out a UVW template, which I can do by pressing Tools, Render UVW Template. Now I think I picked, what size was this? 10,000. Obviously that might seem a bit extreme for some people, but if I want the detail in there, and I'm using high-res textures to create masks, you know, I can zoom right into this and you'll see that I get all the detail in my masks and there's no blurring. And it means when if I create a cameo, an up-close composition, everything's going to look highly detailed and look very nice. So I'd render that out at 10,000, so you can just put 10,000 in there, render UV template, and it'll take a second And there you go, you have it. And you can just save that out, and then you can put that on like a screen blending mode. So if I copy that and put it to the top of my stack and put that on screen, you can see that I get my lines over my texture, which enables me, gives me a guide where to paint. But as I say, we'll go into this in the next lesson or in a later part of the tutorial. But for now, that's how I unwrap the log burner. And then, as I mentioned before, if I want this front edge to be all one piece, I just do exactly what I've done with the wooden beams and find the edges that I want stitched together. If you remember, we select one and it tells me the opposing edge, so I can move these where I want them to be, swap them over, grab the edge, loop it, and stitch like that. And that enables me to now have this as one piece, and I can stitch this piece on and it'll give me a nice smooth unwrap all around the front where we won't get any stitching or seams at the edges. Sorry, I don't know why I keep saying stitching. We won't get any seams at the edges, so when we're up close this will just be a nice smooth texture running around these turbo smooth corners. And that's the log burner unwrapped.